Bright, light, pomegranate fruit, romance, comedy, tragedy ensuite. Anora
It's Annie.
is all of these. It wants you to love, it wants you to laugh, it wants you to cry. It wants you to do it all and do it fast. Even when slow would be nice.
Take it easy.
More than anything though, Anora wants you to feel Anora. Her laugh, her snark, his skin, her bite. She doesn't want you to empathize. She doesn't want your pity. She wants to be herself and you to see and hear and be her.
Let's go, come on.
Because no one else does.
You're so weird.
Because that's the only way.
Hi, I'm Annie.
Anora inhabits a world of bleak monotony tempered by desperate hopes of princess dreams. There is no escape from a way of life that does not involve a journey into Wonderland. And she doesn't want that dream. She cannot afford that dream. She has to be realistic. And so we follow her, complacent in her resignation, reticent in her hesitation, until there arrives a genuine connection. But how could there be, in her line of work, with all the things she's seen? It was likely Ivan's childlike innocence, the same that so amused us, the same that later broke us, which had her lowering her guard. How could this kid have ill intentions when he barely acts adult? How could he mean her harm when he shares her escapist fantasies to a fault? Although unaware, both Ivan and Anora grow close in captivity, captivated by each other's ability to distract and disregard the steel reality of their existence. One is rich, engaging in vice, the other is poor, still calling in thrice. Both trapped indulging each other to avoid the taste of themselves. Escapism at the hands of senses overdrive. And it escalates and it grows, because the same hit that did it once won't cut it twice. Substances make the wary reckless and merry the hopeless. They color the grey and mirage the distance to our dreams. But even this is too much. To marry the man, to have Prince Charming show up with all his chivalry and all his magnanimity and place a slipper upon her foot. To have a man see her not for what she does, but who she is. Life isn't a fairy tale. She isn't Cinderella. She has to be realistic. But he insists, and so she desists, and the music swells, and the ring is bought, and the vows are taken, and the Lady of the Night marries the Prince of Dawn. Her wish has come true. She's not a thing to be dismissed. She does deserve a happily ever after. Or maybe not.
Okay, bye!
The royal family denounces the union and demands its annulment. How could they let their precious future little king marry a whore? Chaos follows, forces political and forces romantical, or perhaps only desperate for the survival of their waking dream, battle on the fields of the physical, legal and emotional for the cooperation of the cowering prince. But the odds are stacked against her. No matter her charm, no matter her wit, no matter her unbending will, Anora can see the cards toppling. The world conspires against her, old enemies thrust their daggers, new gopniks force her hand, and the only one who could possibly understand, who should understand and defend her, no longer recognizes she exists. The eyes she grew used to seeing herself in no longer show her reflection, no longer shine her way. Like the rest, they don't see Anora. Unlike the rest, they don't even see an object. They're blinded by desperate surrender. She is, once again, alone, encased in the frustrations of the unfair. The world spits on her face for what she does, mistaking her labour for herself, as if work was all we were, as if she was lesser than them. And all she can do is endure, as though she cares about dismiss her disgrace. Her sweet illusion sours, and all the colours of the world dull to grey, with no substance to paint it again. And people said this was a comedy.
You're funny.
But why? Why won't he fight for her like she did for him? Did he never see Anora? Was she wrong to dream of growth? Is she really just a whore? It seems now that she is. Never not a thing to be bought, and always that which can be bought can also be sold. Not human either, for people have voices and she has none. If she did, surely hers should be heard just as much as those of the prince and his guard, yet they seem to hate her just as much as the pimp at the bar. Slowly, Anora reaches the ultimate and inevitable realization that she is less than human. Not only has she no say on the ways of the world, she has no say on the life she calls her own. As much as she clings and claws and fights, that dream that was slides from her grasp. There is no palace in which to sequester. There is no Prince Charming come to save her.
And thank you
There is no one left to see past Annie's glimmer to Anora.
for making my last trip to America so fun.
Or maybe, nah. Perhaps it is not a fault of her person, but that of those who fail to notice. Perhaps it is the lack of self-observation that keeps others from the terrifying realization they are just like her. They are no better than a whore. No one is. After all, with all his money and all his looks, with all his charm, Vanya is just as trapped as Annie. The cage may be different. It may not stink of semen and drink, as those are what he escapes to, but it does reek of spoiled infancies and overbearing parental expectations, of longed-for paths and external manipulation. Ivan, just like Anora, just like all of us, had dreams, desires, hopes, yet for all the pleasures his parents permitted, they never allowed him to be. Ivan was and remains prisoner to his family's design, and all the money in the world could not buy him out of it, which is why he hid in excess and leisure, because all the money in the world could not buy him the courage to stand up for himself. Who is he anyway? Who would he stand up for? Even Ivan doesn't know Ivan. Gilded and garlanded though it may be, a cage is still a cage. The issue is, sometimes it can be hard to fathom, because it is hard to accept that, for things to change, we have to. Now Anora can witness another attempting to suffocate his feelings of inadequacy with artificial ecstasy. She is faced with a terrifying realization: she is just like him. In fleeing her nightmare life of marginalized condescension, Annie fell back on the romanticized dreams of fairy tale salvation she watched as a child. Instead of working towards the bettering of her situation, she waited for a man-shaped magical solution to sweep all her problems away and her up with them. In doing so, she relinquished agency and control, as much as she had, to others more powerful yet less deserving. In this sense, Ivan is a mirror image, regardless of magnitude and privilege. In his case, he gave up sovereignty over his life to avoid disappointing mom and dad. And they were disappointed because he gave it up. And it gets worse.
Well, I'm gonna miss you.
Not only did both hide in indulgence, they both sought solutions in a partner, appointing this other the responsibility for solving all their problems, of facilitating joy, restoring pride, and bestowing respect, when in fact the first person who should work on you is you. The purpose of companionship should never be for it to shoulder the burdens of your existence, but to help you shoulder them yourself. This is not how Annie saw relationships. It's not the princess tales she grew up watching. It's not what sells the romance. What she bought was fantasy. What she needed had a touch less flair and a lot more worth. It makes sense then that seeing the same faults of the prince she so grew to despise reflected within herself, that Anora would grow disgusted with Annie, that she would recognize her behavior for what it is, a weak attempt at veiling the world with a torn G-string.
What?
That's why, for all her wit and all her will, Anora never proposed she herself be the prince, never considered she could be the one to help herself out of the cage. Instead, she placed all those hopes on someone else, a savior who would carry her from a life of routine inferiority to one of infinite gratification. And it makes sense. We all like distraction, especially when the problems we face appear insurmountable. But seeking salvation in a relationship is not only unfair to the other person, it's also unfair to you, because it does away with the power you have to change your life. It binds you to the idea that you need saving, and therefore cannot save yourself, leaving the concealment of your ailment as the only available recourse to bear the weight. And when you're waiting on the prince that was promised, on the fairy godmother, or a miracle, it can be a long wait. The reason we do it is because it's simpler. Change is scary. Change is hazardous. Change you have to work for. It will be easier to stay as you are, to cover all with the dopamine of low-effort rewards and vacuous entertainment. Drinks, drugs, posts, clothes, games, sex, money, dose. Instead, Anora's happy ending is her breaking down in tears.
Hey.
It's her facing all her mistakes and all her flaws, all she's been running from, being undermined and overlooked, isolated and without support. and sitting with it. The only way we can change is by acknowledging the need for it. That's her happily ever after. It may not be as easy as she wished, but if one person likes her, she can't be all bad, right?
I like Anora. I mean, I like Anora more than any.
To be liked, she must first be seen. To be seen and liked, she must be more than just a whore. Or maybe that never made her lesser after all. To be equal, she can't be a thing easy to disregard and dismiss. If one dared dream, she may even be deserving of genuine connections and support. Maybe she's worth more than they thought.
But what does it mean?
In America, we don't care about that kind of stuff. We don't give meaning to names. It's not a thing.
It may not be a kingdom, a ball, and a dress. It may be messy, awkward, and strange. Her problems remain, and all she has is the path and help to brave the difficult terrain. But at least she knows the way. It is a happily ever after, or as close as we can get. If you have to be realistic, those don't exist. They never have, they never will, they never should. Life, like any story, is not about its end. It's about the way we get there. It means pomegranate fruit, light and bright.